engaging online and doing lots of things. Perfect. One thing I decided to do was to focus. Everywhere and focus on the
there we are.
And at the same time,
I'm just watching some annoying sales stuff.
I also run a marketing agency with my brother because it's something I love and it's part of my background business as well. And I said to him, look, with all of this, the video marketing that we've been offering may struggle as well. So
I can't hear you.
And as you know, you
can hear me, okay.
Yeah, I can now. Turn it up, turn it up.
What are you listening to?
You. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah,
oh my goodness. What is that guy saying?
Blah, blah.
Is he speaking in Russian?
I don't know what he's on about. Some git flogging stuff.
Well, what can I say? There are many out there, and hopefully we get to talk about this because it can be a problem. How are you, Brooke?
I'm very well. I've done my exercise for today. My 10 miles on my bike, and yeah, I'm all good. So yeah, what about you? You been out of the house yet?
I did, yeah. Around 6-ish, went out for a quick walk. About 30, an hour, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah, making sure there aren't many people out there. So playing safe still.
Do you have, so, I mean, there's a lot of cyclists and a lot of, not a lot, but more cyclists than runners and walkers and a little bit of traffic. But I don't know about in your area. Are there a lot more, is it a lot denser?
Well, as you know, I'm in Surbiton, and first thing in the morning, you just don't find many people, and the traffic is, well, it doesn't really exist. I mean, it's very quiet. It's very quiet. And cyclists, I only come across a few. But then, as you can see now, I'm home and I don't leave. If I leave again, it's until tomorrow morning, early morning again, unless I have to do some shopping.
Yeah, it's the same here. It's the lockdown routine, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely. And I think, I don't know, I could be generalizing, but I think people are more likely to leave now that the weather is nice and more people out, which, it is what it is.
It is what it is. People make individual decisions about what's right and wrong for them. Just like you're choosing to stand up to record this, and obviously I'm worried about, at your age, about whether you're going to be able to complete this chat while standing up. Even though I'm the one, white beard.
You know me, I'm always up for a challenge, and I decided, I tend to enjoy it more when I'm standing, and I think
really?
I'm even more going back to strategies and things. I even speak better when I'm standing. I hope, for the sake of this call.
Yeah, we'll let the listeners and / viewers judge. So this is really our inaugural. Not sure what we're going to be doing. Conversation. Let's find out what we talk about and see where it leads, sort of thing, isn't it? And we haven't got a name. We haven't got a name.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah, it's just a conversation. So I'm just curious, because we don't live that far away. I mean, I'm in Walton, you're in Surbiton. How are you finding it all? I mean, how are you finding it from a personal perspective rather than a business or a other perspective?
I guess I'm going to start with this morning when I woke up. Because last night I slept really bad. Right. I got quite worried about things, in general, because obviously we're getting to spend too much time, all of us under the same roof, if you like. So I've got my brother, my wife, our flatmate, we've got the cat, and different dynamics.
Yeah.
So going back to how I felt when I woke up this morning, I felt being very dramatic. I feel a bit devastated. I feel like, oh my goodness, I mean, what am I going to do? This situation is kind of, the feelings are piling up, and days are, it's turning into a big routine. that can be quite negative. So I spent a bit of time. It took me a while to wake up. I wanted to wake up around 5:30 because, I have this belief that if you woke up early, then, you can achieve great things with your day and things like that, going back to beliefs. And it wasn't the same this morning. And it took me a while to get back into gear and finally leave the house and go through my, motivation process, auto motivation, in which I got back into, okay, let's find resources. Let's see what to do. So going back to it, I would probably say every morning I have to go through this routine because I'm not feeling it. Right. In the morning, it's just why I wake up and feeling this is daunting. No matter what we do, nothing really seems to really work. There's up and downs. And then if you're good, then your partner is not very good. And then, my brother is not very good. And then I got a call from my parents, not very good. And then family somewhere else, not very good. And all of a sudden, all of that is, if you let it, it will impact you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, what can I say?
Yeah, it's interesting. I completely get the... I used to set an alarm every morning, like 6:30 up, brute. I'm not doing any of that. I'm sleeping until, don't be wrong, I generally wake up between 6 and 7 without an alarm anyway. But I'm not setting an alarm, and I'm not making myself do things. But every day really is just discovering how I'm feeling that day. And although, and again, it's me and my girlfriend, my partner here, so there's just the two of us to negotiate, and we have separate rooms at the opposite ends of the building, so that's fine. It is always just a process of discovery. How am I feeling today? How's my partner feeling today? I do like to listen to the news in the morning. I don't get particularly... I've always been pretty good at keeping the noise at a level that doesn't really interfere with me, but I like to know what's going on. But I don't listen to the news all the day. I might listen to it a couple of times a day or check the newspaper now and then. But yeah, and some days it's been like, okay, I've got a lot to do, let's get on and do it. And that sort of pushes me along. And other days when it's not so orchestrated, it's just whatever that day is going to be. And that might be sitting in the sun for a couple of hours. That may be watching films. That may be reading. That may be studying. I'm studying some stuff at the moment. But it really is an up and down everyday experience. Which is weird.
Everyday experience. Yeah, it is. It is weird. It is weird. And then when... for instance, we had, the last couple of days have been very good. And Sunday, our flatmate decided, why don't we do a barbecue? Which, by the way, I thought, great. Yeah, if you guys are going to do it, perfect. I'll enjoy the sun. I ended up, getting all the whole thing set up, which is fine. But then in the process, I thought, well, this is great because I'm disconnecting from what I've been doing every day, which is sort of working, creating things, what to do with the business, with life. So it was a great opportunity. So I like what you said, that sometimes it's finding out how you're feeling and, sort of checking on the environment and how are things.
Yeah.
And on that note, I realized that I haven't been sharing much, even though we're under the same roof, I haven't been actually spending quality time with my wife.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing each other a lot, but then... When was the last time in the last 4 weeks that we actually sat down and, talked like we do more regularly when things are normal? Wow. So today, I don't know, this can be something nice to do for people out there. We're going to be doing together the 5 love languages. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Yeah, I have. I'll tell you what we do, but go and share so that other people can.
Well, no, still to be discovered. I just, thought I've been shared. Well, people have shared that with me a few times. Well, this is a great thing to do, and why don't you do it? And then in order to discover something new, I decided, well, this can be nice. Nice thing to do with my wife. Whatever it takes, maybe an hour or two, and then we speak about it, share our points of view, and then it's a nice dynamic to do. Then it's an opportunity to talk, and we're just doing it this afternoon, potentially after this call.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So what I've been doing with my partner for the last 6 months, maybe longer, 6 months, let's say, is every day, or most days, not every day, we actively share. So each time, and I'm sure you've heard this process, so one of us will start and we'll talk about what's going on for us. The other person doesn't interrupt, the other person doesn't respond, the other person just listens. It can be about them, it can be about what's going on, but it's about how you feel, so how I'm feeling. At the end of that, they then respond by repeating back what they heard. And then they say, did I get it? And then if they didn't repeat back correctly, i.e. they didn't hear what you said, or, then you can clarify, and then that's repeated until they understand exactly what it is you've experienced. And then they spend a bit of time empathizing, so I can, or understanding, so I can empathize that you're struggling with, the work situation, that you're struggling with what videos to put out, and I can understand that you're struggling emotionally with, and that's it. And that could be and then we swap. And we do that every day. So it can take 5 minutes, it can take 10 minutes, it can take 20 minutes. It can take as long as it needs to take. But we do that every day. So every day we have a connection, a sense of connection. We are able to go, I hear you. And not only do I hear you, but I hear you in a way that makes that I understand what you've been going through. And that's been really, really helpful. And that's a nice way to let go of tensions. It's a nice way to actually genuinely connect.
I really like that, Brooke. And the question I have, because I think it's a very good routine, something really good to do. I appreciate that. How do you know it's time to do it as a couple? How do you know it's time to actually sit down and
we
speak?
tend to do it in the evening, just after dinner. We tend to sort of, rather than like first thing in the morning. There is no right time. There's just what time feels right for you. But we generally do it in the evening, like after we've had dinner. Maybe I don't like, personally, I like to go to bed. So I don't like to do it when I'm too tired, because then I'm just like, so usually after dinner, but not too late, is the time we tend to do it. When we're sitting down, maybe watching something, a film or something. We just subscribe to Disney Plus, not advertising, but so we're watching loads of films. I might edit that out. And so that's a really good time when we're sitting on the sofa and we can just go, okay, how do you want to share? And then we'll start doing that. And so that's something that my supervisor shared with me. And there's loads of stuff on YouTube, and there's a great video, people doing it. But yeah, and that can be as personal. It can be, when you said this today, I felt this and it made me feel really shit, and you tend to do this a lot, and I noticed that I get really angry at you. So it can be very focused, or it can be, I'm feeling really tired today. I feel like I don't want to do any work. There's no right or wrong. There's just what you want to share. So
I love it.
Yeah, I'll send you some stuff. I'll send you the stuff that I use. So it's easy. It's
cool.
Really easy.
No, definitely. I like it. I'm happy to start doing it.
It's simple,
exactly. Simple.
And it's not long. So because otherwise, if stuff's long, you don't do it. You don't. If you go, we got to spend half an hour every day doing this, people go, first couple of times they go, yeah, amazing, let's do that. And then it's like, half an hour enough. No. Let's do it tomorrow. It's never going to happen.
I know. That's why I was asking you. I mean, how do you do it? How do you know it's time to do it? And again, that consistency, which is crucial. And now I'm thinking, obviously, as you can imagine, with the same process, doing it with, people you care about, and even, people at work, anybody really. It's so simple.
Exactly. And it takes the heat out of because you're not allowed to just be unpacking and go, yeah, well, that's because you always say this and because you're always doing that. That's why I'm like angry. It takes that energy out of it. And because you have to repeat back and show that you actually understand what's going on. So you can say, so what I heard was that you think I'm a complete lazy bastard. And they go, did I get that? And they goes, no, what I said was, I sometimes feel that you don't make an effort around the house in a way that helps me, which is a completely different thing. But, you know, and that's why, you know, there can be a bit of back and forth, but it takes that heat and energy out of the issue.
And I'm thinking, Brooke, that obviously the more you do it, the more you take away that kind of compound effect.
Absolutely.
You know, if you've got an emotion and it builds up, it builds up, it builds up, and then there is going to be a lot of heat. Basically, what you're taking away is just, you know, bits of heat every day, keeping it cool in a way. I mean, that's how I'm feeling it.
Yeah. And also, you know that at some point later that day, something has happened, you go, oh, I'm going to mention that later. Or actually, because you're already in the mindset of being used to listening to the other person, you're already perhaps doing that process yourself. Unless there's sort of more fundamental underlying stuff, but that's a different thing.
Well, Brooke, you sold it to me. Send it through, and I don't know what you think.
I'll send it through.
Is it worthwhile later on, as you post this video, wherever you're going to post it or share it, maybe just adding that link to it or something like that?
I'll put the YouTube video. Yeah.
Cool.
On that. It's a very simple technique. I mean, you know, I think all those sort of things like, I think that, I don't know whether it comes out of Marshall Rosenberg's Nonviolent Communication, which is an amazing book. I don't know if you've read Marshall Rosenberg's work.
That one I haven't, no.
Yeah, really, really interesting. I keep seeing people in the mirror come past through the door. I keep going, who's that?
No, gotta be careful because that's my wife. She's doing what I could be doing, which is washing the car. So there we go. We'll have about that later. So we're gonna stick to this routine now. Hopefully we get it started today. We'll talk about it. Yeah. How come and what, not you type of conversation.
And how are you finding, I don't know if I want to ask this really, I mean, how are you finding work? Not how are you finding work, but how is, you know, the work that you're setting up, and how are you finding it all at the moment? Because we're in strange times.
I think, well, if I'm going to put it in one word, this whole situation, it's given me focus.
Interesting.
A lot of focus. I mean, I guess I see it like this. I could have really panicked, which I did initially when the whole situation started, because I remember, I don't know, I think I've shared this with you before. I got like 30 emails saying, sorry, Jose, this event has been canceled, this is happening. The one that we had scheduled from, you know, last year that was going to happen this month is not happening, this is not happening, the training is not happening. So I panicked at that point, and we're just, oh my goodness, okay, so right. I got two options: to continue panicking and that's it, and go down the spiral, or think about what else can I do. And what it gave, I said, was focus. And I started thinking, okay, so for my business to survive, and in order to, even for my business to thrive throughout this process, and when the situation is over, because this situation will pass as anything else in life, it's just another cycle. What do I do? And it's just focus. And it's just eliminate loads of things that were not in value. And I'm going to quote somebody, and I don't remember the name, but it's actually, me and my brother, I work a lot with my brother, as you know, and we've been asking ourselves the question, will this help the boat go faster?
Right.
So if it doesn't, then we're not doing it. And I think this is something that we're going to use from now on. And regardless of the circumstances, it's going to help us stay on track and doing what really matters. Because, you know, sometimes we end up doing loads of things. And out of that, what's actually adding value to the business, to your life, to your customers? So again, in a word, focus, laser focus on what has to be done, and laser focus on what you can do to help your customers And, you know, in a way you were watching that video that you were complaining about this guy speaking about, you know, whatever he was saying. And in a way, that's what we've experienced. And we somehow created something from it that we're using for ourselves, that we used before for a customer, and now we're readapting it, and now it's working.
Yeah.
In order to get, you know, to get more people to his webinars and to promote his business differently. And I see it as an opportunity to really come out stronger. I think we all can come out stronger from this situation in business, in life, mindset, even body. Because, you know, I was speaking about something else, health, with some other business partners. We are doing the intermittent fasting.
Right.
So we're doing the 16-8, which is, again, is something I've done a few times, but they hadn't done. And now we're exchanging this, we're sharing the strategy, and we're all doing it together for a few weeks.
Are you doing midday to 8?
We are doing, let me see if
because I did midday to 8, so I would not eat until midday and then stop eating at 8 p.m.
Yeah, roughly. For me, it works quite well if I do around midday, 11 until 7, and around that time. So we're doing that, for example.
Right.
And it was also an excuse to cut on the brownies, which I love. So, you know, it's day 2, and I'm struggling with the brownies. Everything else seems to be okay.
Yeah. We all have our challenges. Yeah, and I think it's very interesting that you talk about, you know, it's been a great opportunity for you to pare back and to focus on the essentials. What is actually important for my business right now? What is helpful? What is not helpful? What is essential? What is non-essential? And I think the metaphors, obviously, you know how much I like metaphors. You know, using the boat thing is always, it's a nice metaphor. And it is an interesting time. I think, you know, obviously we do similar work, but not the same. And obviously as a therapist, I'm still seeing clients. I'm still working online in this country and elsewhere as well. But the number of new inquiries has dropped to pretty much 0. Because, you know, which is not really a surprise because everything's come into really sharp focus. Yes, anxiety is really high, but that's not necessarily that's not a response that's atypical in a situation like this. It feels completely normal for anxiety to be high or higher or increased because there's a lot to be, again, terminology-wise, but, you know, anxious about or worried about or concerned about. And so, you know, there's a lot more of the more basic fight, flight, or freeze responses. You know, it's like I'm more interested in my family, food, jobs. So my perceived issue or my issue of this or that doesn't feel quite so important in that context. So, because, you know, if you've got an issue with public speaking, that's hardly likely to be a problem right at the moment. You know, if that's such a massive issue for you that it's really a problem that you would come and see somebody like me to deal with that, at the moment, if you're in lockdown, that's probably not going to be something that's going to be a problem. Again, so I would imagine at the end of this, you know, it will change. They will also deal, you know, anybody involved in change will need to deal with the consequences of what's happening now. And there will be consequences, of course, because there are for everything. And so for me, it's also about how do I want to deal with this, you know, tracking my own journey, but equally still connecting to people. So, and that's literally what I've been doing is contacting people and going, hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? How's it going? How's it going for you? Offering Zoom calls or telephone calls, no charge for 30 minutes. To be honest, as much for me as for them, to go, if you're struggling, let's have a conversation. Let's see how I can, just by having a conversation, see what we can do. And yeah, there is the work. And for those people I have worked with before, you know, within the NHS, I am helping out in that way as well. Because I want to be busy and I want to be useful. But I think it's really important. I've seen a lot of the way a lot of change workers or therapists are approaching this, and some of it doesn't really resonate well with me. I think, you know, coronavirus is not the best thing that could happen for a therapy business. It's not the best opportunity there is. You know, I'd rather it hadn't happened, but now we have to negotiate it. And I don't like the idea, and this is a personal thing, I don't like the idea of capitalizing on it and going, hey, I'm doing a coronavirus special deal on this stuff. There's nothing wrong in making money, and I'm completely open to continuing to work, of course, where it's useful and appropriate. But there's always going to be people who try and leverage a situation in a way that I don't feel comfortable with. That's
Brooke.
what we did. But.
No, but, well, that's kind of your style anyway. You keep me entertained. You keep me in that flow in which, I mean, the lovely thing about the way in which you talk is that somehow, as you're speaking, I'm sort of creating, you know, my own version of that, that you're sharing for myself. And then I'm ready to share my insights. So it's a great connection. So I like it, even though it was a bit long-winded.
Brevity has never been my style.
No, that's why I like talking to you. What was I going to say? Yeah, exactly. You're speaking about capitalizing and all of that. Well, it's down to values and all of that. I was going to share something because I read a while ago that, you know, for many years we've been in the business of humanity, regardless of what we do. And I think it's Dale Carnegie who says that. And now, more than ever, you know, we have that opportunity to go and share, whether you call it coronavirus something, or because I don't know if you heard about the one I was organizing with some business partners, which was how to conquer corona like a coach, for instance, which was free. It was a free set of webinars in which we created like a workbook to support people that, you know, want to make some time to see, well, you know, I'm not happy, or I don't like the way I'm feeling, or I'm feeling stuck. Yeah. What can I do? And then that's somehow what we were delivering in a 2-hour webinar.
Yeah.
So going back to what you're saying, regardless of how we name it, I think this is a great opportunity to help.
Absolutely, I agree.
It's a great opportunity to connect together as human beings, you know, bring out our humanity and give the best of ourselves.
I agree.
And if you want to speak about business, again, while you're doing that, regardless, you are showcasing what you know, how good you are at what you do. And then if you're helping people, then somehow when the situation is over, people will remember you. I mean, I will remember some of the conversations I've had with you. And if there's anything, I'll come back to you, Brooke, or I'll come back to somebody else that helped me with the marketing, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It is time to give. It is time to give. Focus for me, but at the same time, give. If somehow I can share my expertise with somebody through videos or whatever, this is the time.
Yeah,
I think, which is a positive way.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And and there have been some, advantages. So because I don't, being in one place all the time has allowed me to open up online booking. So anyone can book a slot at any point via links. And I don't even have to get involved. It sends them a Zoom link. It does this. Everything is done automatically. So I can look at my calendar like this morning and go, oh, somebody's booked in a conversation, or I've got a conversation and this, and that's really nice. Because it's, I set it up how I want. So I'm not suddenly surprised by, oh, you've got a call in 5 minutes. But, and so there have been some opportunities to explore the technology and to utilize it in a helpful way. I mean, obviously I do miss the face-to-face. Working online is different.
Yeah.
It's not worse. I personally miss the sitting in a room. It is a different experience, but obviously you can do very good work and highly effective work, more importantly, online. But so what's the one thing that you're doing now that if this hadn't happened, you probably wouldn't have done, or maybe not done for a while? and then I'll tell you my embarrassing one.
Well, I mean, for one thing, one tiny thing, going back to the online booking, I saw you doing it, and in a way I embrace technology as well, because one of those things, I have this platform that I've used for certain things, but not for the online booking.
Yeah.
So I created one yesterday. So following what you were doing, and I thought, wow, I mean, Brooke is doing this, so it was a nice thing. That is, that is one tiny bit I've done. I don't. You know what? I go back to the focus, Brooke. Finally, I always wanted to really create different online businesses with the funnels and everything else. And I also wanted to have my online programs. And this is the time for me to work with my brother and my business partner to really make that happen. And there is no excuse. Put it this way, there aren't many distractions that, like, okay, let's just go networking here. Or there is this potential opportunity here. All of a sudden, it's just like, narrow it down, make it happen. And for me, that means a lot, because it's one of those, when I think about business and my values, that independence in a way and that sort of freedom is very important. And it's going back to the online booking.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't have had it, I mean, for instance, yesterday somebody contacted me. There would have been potentially 2, 3 emails or messages. Yeah, this time works for me. That time doesn't work for me. I say, great. Here you go, the link. Voila. So simple things that can make your life much easier.
Absolutely.
How about you? Now, you mentioned the embarrassing thing. Now I want to hear about it.
So for me, I really like radio. Like, I love radio, listening to shortwave radio. And so I thought now would be a great time to get the first level, my foundation level of amateur radio license.
Amazing.
So I'm studying online a course, and I've got the official, handbook. And so I'm in the middle of studying that, and I've submitted my application for an exam, which they're now doing online for the first time ever. And so that will allow me to operate an amateur radio, certain bands, certain strengths and stuff, once I've learned the knowledge and passed the exam. And again, but what's interesting about that is it's about communication. Amateur radio, there's technical stuff and everything, but actually it's about reaching out to new people and connecting to people, because that's always a common theme in my life is, reaching out and connecting to people. That's the thing that gives me the most joy. And that's just another way to do it. And there's some other technical aspects about it that interest me. Up until this point, I've never really focused on electronics or technical knowledge. And this means I will have to learn those things. And I'm quite excited about learning something completely new that I've never really done before. And that's interesting. So, at some point I'll have to learn how to build electronics, and that's a bit geeky, but quite exciting.
You see, that is just fantastic. I mean, how you turn this into a great opportunity to do something like that. And I'm very curious, because I would like to be part of that. I don't know, are you going to have like a radio program or something? Because I love that. I would really love to be part of, I don't know, even if it's once a week, conversations.
Yeah. Well, I think you're not allowed to use it for any commercial purposes. So it can only be about the furtherance of radio in and of itself.
Okay.
But, this is why I'm interested in this idea. I mean, we both know that a lot of people do podcasts or record the podcasts, like in a way like we are almost here. And it's quite hard to gain traction. But, of course, when we talked about this idea, it wasn't necessarily to, and this is a very open discussion. We have no idea yet what we want to do and how we want to do it. And that's quite exciting, I think, to be quite open to discover, what direction this may take. Now, look, we may put this out and nobody listens, and that's okay too, because it doesn't invalidate our connection and the conversation we've had. We both individually do things that are more focused. I run a meetup group in person when that worked. And at the moment, I'm doing it weekly on a Monday morning for half an hour just to allow people to come together and connect. So, you know, online stuff is very helpful like that. But it would be nice to be able to have something that people could just, that's not, this is how you're going to sort out your anxiety. You know, we're just two people talking and being open and honest. And I know that both of us are those sort of people. There's no, you know, you and I don't have any competition or any scores to settle or any, you know, there's nothing between us that can get in the way yet. And
wait until I open my own radio station.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see it. You know, I think it's very interesting. You know, as I said, because you're in a similar area to me, but your focus is slightly different. And we have stuff that crosses over and stuff that doesn't, and that's really interesting and exciting. So it'd be interesting to see where this leads. Yeah,
sure.
I'll try not to carry on talking. Hard though that is.
There we go. You were leading nicely, and I think, you know, going back to the radio example. As you know, I believe that the way we do one thing, we do many things.
Absolutely.
So if you're being able to, you know, to turn this into an opportunity, that to me, the definition I give to it is that you are a cause. Basically, you're taking in a way control.
Yeah.
You're not controlling the whole situation because you cannot control Corona, you cannot control people's reactions, you can't control any of that. But at least you can control, you know, as you know, what you're thinking, how you're perceiving your reality. You can get curious and ask yourself questions. So is it really going to help me? Where do I want to go? What's happening around me? You know, take an ecology check. What's really going on? And then what I keep on thinking and saying every time, Brooke, for instance, I go to WhatsApp, and just, you know, some people have got a bit upset with me because I've left the WhatsApp groups. I have. And the reason why is because, first of all, it was taking some of my time.
Yeah.
So I was, you know, having at least to just archive or delete what was going on in there, or quickly just scrolling down so I don't get all of those notifications. It was taking time. And when I actually decided to go into these groups and see what they were saying, the amount of things they were sharing, they weren't adding value. So what is my question? And again, a question that anybody could ask. How is this having value? I mean, to what? To my life? Or how is this having value? Me watching this, is it going to help me with what I'm doing, with what I want to achieve, with how I want things to be after the Corona situation is out and gone? Definitely. So I started taking myself out of those, deleting them. Yeah. People understand, some don't. The amount of time we can invest in these things and not even impacting people's lives, because what we're sharing, many people are not even looking at it. Or really, when you're sharing it, are you doing it with what purpose? Because that's worthwhile checking as well.
Yeah,
is it really, you believe, you know, that's going to impact? I mean, if I'm sending something to my parents, do I want to create, what do I want with it? What's the intention behind it? And then if you ask that question, I can imagine that, you know, you will, well, I wouldn't say stop, but probably send less messages on WhatsApp to these groups.
Yeah.
Which become that distraction, which in a way then hold you back. And then you are at effect because you are sort of, you know, in the hamster wheel, sort of chasing and what's going on in here and posting and sharing and posting and sharing. By the end of the day, what have you done for you, for your life, to change? What have you learned? That's a good question to ask yourself at the end of the day. I ask myself, what have I learned, or have I laughed? What have I laughed at? Have I been happy, unhappy? Check in. And, you know, it's just going back to being a bit in control, having that internal dialogue that helps you.
Yeah.
If you have an outcome, or if you have something you want, or even if you don't, then ask yourself, what do I want? I mean, when today is over, now that we've been having this discussion, I want to have, you know, I would like that to happen, which is the conversation with my wife, the one that you shared a few minutes ago. And the other one is just do the 5 love languages, I think. So if I achieve those 2, great stuff by the end of the day. And then I'll see what I can learn from it.
Yeah.
But my day done, which in my opinion, in my map of the world, my view of things, it's a good thing.
You sound very NLP there, your map of the world.
Yeah, that was probably, that came out that way. Which, in a way, the way I see my reality.
I think actually what you did mention is something is I think absolutely fundamental. Of course, is the truth is we have very little control, and that's an awful thing to realize, but also a very liberating one. I think there is a lot that's outside of my direct control, and I won't get sidetracked down the route of people who spend their time trying to change the world. It's much easier to change yourself, but once you realize or appreciate that actually there's not a lot of stuff you have control over, and that the only control you truly have is how you choose to react to things. And that's actually the greatest strength you can have. And it's easy to say and hard to do, because of course people get triggered by so much stuff, and they believe that those things are causing them to have the reaction they are. It's not true, but it feels true for those people. It's like, if you don't stop saying that I'm going to get angry, they're not making you angry. You're choosing to be angry because of what you believe and your model of the world, etc. But we feel like we're getting triggered, and I think at the moment, especially when I'm having conversations, it's like, what can you control and what can't you control, and those things you can control, what's helpful and what's not helpful. So I'm not trying. I mean, at the moment, especially, anxiety is massive. And people said to me, what can you do to stop people being anxious? And I said, there's not. It's not about stopping people being anxious. I'm not saying you shouldn't be. And again, anxious is a word that, I think there's concerned, worried, anxious, and then catastrophizing. But, that's my own scale. When you're anxious and it's something that's unhelpful, there's a lot going on. There's a lot to be concerned about. There's a lot to be worried about. Most of us, if not all of us, have got people in our lives that we love, plus our family members. No, but we got our family. Sorry, Mum. But, we've got friends and family, those we're living with, those that we don't have access to, but only remotely at the moment. We're concerned about them. Most, our parents, of course, are older than us. And so my parents are in their 70s and 80s, they're going to be more vulnerable. And of course it's a worry, and for a lot of people whose jobs have suddenly been, especially if you're self-employed, but even if you're not, all of a sudden your earning potential may have been cut dramatically. And there's still the mortgage to pay and there's bills to pay. And, these are things to be aware of and concerned about. And it's completely legitimate. So to say to somebody, let's have a conversation, I'm going to stop you being anxious. Well, I think I would say that's arrogant. But, but what can we do to turn down the noise a little bit? What can we do that's helpful just to turn down the noise a little bit, to give yourself a bit of context and a bit of respite? It might come back up again, and then, we can keep doing the work. But, and that's really, I think, been the focus, is just, if I can share anything, it's just about how can we turn the noise down a little bit at this point in time.
I fully agree with you on, your approach in a way to things, Brooke, because going back to being anxious, I think I would say at least I'm anxious 3 times a day.
Yeah.
At least when I wake up, around usually after lunchtime, and then before I go to bed. Those, like the ones I usually remember that I realize, wow, I'm quite anxious about things. And then, as you said, there's really nothing wrong with it. We're humans. And that's, I'm being kind to myself, admitting that, I'm anxious and I'm worried about the whole situation. And then it's just my decision. At that point, it becomes a conscious decision whether I want to stay on this feeling and where that journey is going to take me, or somehow change it.
Yeah.
And when, you begin working on that changing thinking patterns, which is like going to the gym, even though we cannot go to the gym nowadays, but, It's just like building that muscle. The more you do it, the more you, whoop, that becomes the trigger. I'm anxious, that becomes my trigger. Okay, right. So where do I want my mind or my thinking or whatever it is to go towards now? And then, so to me, that becomes again a good trigger.
And I always ask, and I'm always interested in detail. So when people say to me, "Oh, I'm really anxious," I go, "What is it you're anxious about specifically? What is it specifically that you're anxious about right now? Or what is it in that situation where you feel really anxious? What is it about that situation you're really anxious about? Because there's something specific. Yes, there's going to be a level of generalized anxiety, of course. The world we're living in at the moment. But what is it about that situation that you have to face? So, somebody I'm working with is a key worker, and they're working 4 days on and 4 days off, and when they have to go back in for their 4 days on, their level of anxiety increases. And so it's like, but what is it about it specifically that's causing the increase in anxiety? Because then that's the thing to explore. That's the thing to go, okay, what is it about that makes you feel anxious? What is it that's causing anxiety for you? And then, I don't know, doing whatever you could be helpful for that.
Definitely, Brooke, of course. I mean, as you were saying this, I was speaking to a colleague the other day, and she said that she's blah, 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 blah. So, right.
We'll edit that out, don't worry.
Exactly, that's that. And that is the secret. And then you stop inside. What did she say? Okay, that she was experiencing, because I went through a similar dialogue. So what is it? What is that thing that's, making you, because she said, I'm getting very anxious when I do this. So what is that thing? And it was before, right before she opened up her laptop.
Right.
And then seen an email from a person. So that was the thing. So then you could actually just, on that bit specifically, have a conversation, and then, how would you like it to be different? Which is, like a nice question. I like asking, in a way, gets you towards a solution to changing, seeing it from a different perspective, and then right away, your mind helps you find your resources. But yeah, you're right, being specific, which is, I think, going back to that focus as well. What is it? Because it's not everything, is it? It's just...
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's something I learned, working with many people over the last few years. Is on a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 being the strongest, how strong is this feeling now? And they go, oh, it's about 6 or 7. And, at some point at the beginning, I go, okay, great. So, now I'm like, is it a 6 or is it a 7? They go, oh, I'm not sure. So is it 6? I think it's about 6. So it's not 6. Is it 6.1 or 6.2? I really want them to be completely, and I never let people off that. I am very annoying to work with, as so many of my testimonials have said, because I do like people to get into the habit of going, oh, I'm feeling this and it's this. Or I'm experiencing this and it's this. Rather than going, oh, I'm sort of feeling this and I'm sort of feeling that. It's just starting to get people in, into that, oh, I'm experiencing this and it's this level. Because there's a difference between 6 and 7. There's a difference between 6.5 and 6. There's a difference between 6.1 and 6. They're not the same thing. And that's why I'm always, what is it specifically? Because obviously in your example, it's not the laptop. It's not the email. It's what those things represent, obviously, isn't it? I mean, of course. Exactly. And it's that representation in themselves that there's this huge thing. It's not the email and the laptop. But it feels like that because you open it up and you sit there and it's like, because it's whatever that thing truly represents to them.
It is. And on that note, I think... but definitely. What's that?
No, but I know you know all this, so I'm sort of, I'm not trying to teach you to suck it, you know all this.
Look, I mean, I'm always learning. Otherwise, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. It was supposed, exactly. I don't know whether it's a connection, but it's taking you a while to laugh at my jokes, and they're usually like this, instantaneous. you know one thing I'm finding, that I'm spending a lot of time indoors. All of my family, they speak Spanish, and I better get more often onto these calls to keep on my English. Keep it fresh and quick.
Absolutely, because otherwise, if we have to switch to Spanish, there's going to be some serious trouble, especially as I'm learning German.
Oh, jawohl. Look, well, this is we're going down waffling a bit here. I really like what you said about when you ask people how specific. Is it 6.1, 6.2? Because then, if you as a person, as an individual, you're taking the time to check in with yourself to really, what's really going on with me? Because generalizing, again, we don't tend to do it. It's just, we feel like this, and we continue with our day, and we just go like, whoa, and then not take the time. And then what is it, 6.1, 6.2? Yeah, 6.2. And then if you change that or whatever, you begin finding resources, and then you can experience, that change, and then you begin. I love the building the muscle thing, because I think, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And when you go deep, you go specific, right? It was just this big. Even if it's something with your partner or people, relationships, once you nail it down, and then you can have a different conversation instead of saying, you're making me anxious. Whoa. All of me? All the time? Every day? This.
Yeah. I work with a guy called Andy Austin, who's Metaphors of Movement, and I trained in one of his. The first time I attended one of his training courses. So quite often, as people, we tend to say things like, "So you just feel out of your depth, don't you?" And he would say, "Me? I feel out of my depth." And I looked at him and I went, "What? What's he saying?" He said, "You just said you, as in me. I feel out of my depth." And I was like, "Oh, no, but I meant me." He said, "But you didn't say me, you said you. Because you feel really bad in that situation, don't you?" And he goes, "I don't feel bad." And he kept on picking me up on it. And I was like, and even now I still do it sometimes, but I catch myself now. So I no longer, and clients really get frustrated with this because I do pick them up on it. But they say, "Oh, I have this problem, And I go, "I don't know. You obviously do, but I don't know." And I will keep picking them. But I now own those things. So I always bring it back to I feel anxious in this situation. I experienced this. It's always back to me, because otherwise I'm it's like, I know it's nothing to do with me. I know there's a thing about commonality. We're trying to make a commonality, but actually when you're talking about those things, I find it really important that when people start to go they start to own that stuff in a different way. Otherwise it's trying to almost bring in, well, we're all in this together, we all feel like this, don't we? As opposed to, this is what I'm experiencing.
Definitely, yeah. It sort of brings that ownership back to you, So you are in charge of whatever is happening to you, which is the beauty of language anyway. When I say that, I work a lot with language, and it's something I really pick on and I'm passionate about. The people ask me, is it Spanish, English? Do you speak any other languages? And then, well, okay. Nobody's going back. Yeah, it's a bit of Spanish going on now. I need to work on my Russian, maybe, or that German, and maybe next time we can do a bit of Javol or Ja 9.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but like as soon as I got into lockdown, like every morning I was like 2 hours of German on Duolingo, 2 hours of German. I haven't done it for a week. I was like, I don't know what it is. When we first went into lockdown, I think we all, everybody just went, I don't know, we all just dealt with things in our own way. Now it feels like it's settled down a bit, but I was like, German. I can learn German. And I was like, Duolingo, I've got to get to the top of the league. Now I keep getting reminders going, you haven't done any lessons for a week.
Well, I bought myself, on that same note, like 10 different books when the whole thing kicked in. And the 10 different books, and in this, at the same place I left them several weeks ago. And every morning I wake up and say, yeah, I've got those books, and yeah, right, and yeah, just another day. Yeah, we went back to how we all in a way panic sometimes, don't we?
It's a completely new situation, isn't it? I mean, I've never experienced anything like this. I mean, you know, there was a massive difference between be careful about meeting people, try and keep a distance, but life went on. You know, I was still seeing clients, I was still going to the place, I was still meeting people for coffee. And then all of a sudden it was, and I remember that sort of the beginning of that week, so the lockdown took place on the Friday, and on the Monday I made the decision to work online only anyway. After chatting to my supervisor, just it felt like the right thing to do. But then on the Friday, that it's not now you should, but you will. And that's a big shift. You will not go to work unless you have to, or you're a key worker. You will stay at home. You will only go out once a day for exercise or shopping. You would, and that was a big shift from be careful, don't meet in groups, that, you know, and then so it was like, oh, okay, we're at home now.
Yeah.
That's that, you know, I've never experienced anything like that. So it's all new to me as well, you know, it's all new. And I think that's the thing, it's all new for all of us.
True. That's a very important point, Brooke. And for me, being Venezuelan, and obviously for the audience watching this later, we've been through, I mean, that country has been through a lot in the past, I would say more than 30 years. Okay, I lived part of it while I was there. And then in a way, now that I remember it, and it can explain also why I've got certain strategies, and, you know, I've been through the situation in my own way.
Yeah.
It's because connect back, I've been stuck at home for different reasons, not because of an epidemic, but, you know, it was all the violence, or what do you call it, like a curfew, which is not allowed out. So, and there was scarcity, so there wasn't any food sometimes, so we had to buy and sort of, you know, then go out and buy big lots of food and things and stock at home, or the petrol. So, and all of that, in a way, going back to, you know, reframing the whole thing, that gave me lots of resources and got me in a way ready for situations like this. Which now, I mean, I hadn't thought about it until now, really. And I'm thinking that then, you know, it's also good sometimes when we're facing situations, even though it's quite unique, but there can be very specific things that in the past we have done successfully that we've forgotten about, that we can bring into what we're doing at the moment. Yeah. Which is going back to that, you know, being in control, not of the situation, but, you know, controlling yourself, how you react to things, and changing your perception of a very distorted reality. Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that because, it's been powerful, having the ability to then reconnect with those moments of excellence, or moments in which we've been resourceful, you know, which is going back to you picking up on the radio thing and going for that. Is it a radio degree, or what do you call it again?
It's just a license. So there are 3 levels of license. Foundation, intermediate, and full. And then if you get a full license, you can pretty much do anything you want. Like Morse, you know, you can Morse code, television, you know, the world is literally your oyster. But no, I think it's right. You know, it's easy to forget those things, especially when we're younger, that create the map in a particular way. If we're talking using the map is not the territory NLP presupposition, not presupposition, but, you know, maxim, that, you know, you will have experiences from your experiences as a Venezuelan in Venezuela, where you had to endure curfew and, you know, violent situations, you know, and had to deal with them. You know, it will bring a unique perspective to the situation you're in now. And you know, even if you're not consciously aware, obviously on an unconscious level, you will be still drawing on those things.
Definitely. And I guess on that, I mean, my message is that out of, you know, very bad situations, some very good things can come. And I think it's just, the way in which we can decide to look at this as, again, call it opportunity. And I'm not saying be positive. It's not positive. It's just saying, out of all of this, what can I take from that helps me or serves me differently, towards where I'm going?
Yeah.
Or even on a daily basis, and knowing it's down to believe. Again, so you can decide, it's a conscious decision to decide to believe that, from this, good will come.
Yeah.
And now that I connected back with that situation in Venezuela, which was terrible and still is today, there's been a positive impact in my life, and I decided to take it, and believe it this way.
Yeah.
So then it does have an impact, when you make these conscious decisions and how you decide then to take, move forward with things.
No, definitely. And we all do like to move forward in our lives, don't we?
It seems to be a trend. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately,
life is a journey.
It will be quite difficult, even if you wanted to go backwards in life.
That's definitely a conversation for another day. I know that we have an interest in metaphors and metaphors of movement in various guises.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. So, should we sort of bring it to an end for today? I think we've been doing it about an hour.
How are we already?
Yeah.
Wow. You do talk a lot. You see, I told you.
You've had 5 minutes. I've had 55 minutes. And I'll probably edit you out. I'll just put them in as questions. I've had a question from Jose from Venezuela who says, so first of all, thank you. It's always, ever since I first met you, it's always been really interesting and funny chatting to you, which is why this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. So we'll do this again at some point and see where it lands.
Definitely, Brooke. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm glad that I survived the 1 hour standing up. I may not do it again.
Yeah.
Let's see, maybe half an hour.
Maybe next time I'll stand up. Maybe next time I'll stand up.
That could be good. Yeah, that could be good.
There's definitely a possibility there. Great. So we'll do this again.
We'll do this again, Brooke. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Once you post it.